past few weeks, like what Swaroop said, we've been seeing various levels of relationship. We first saw friendship. We saw friends with benefits. Then we saw it's complicated, which is moving to the next level of friendship. Then we saw choosing your partner. And then we went on to getting naughty or finding your partner and then getting married to them. And the last one was Thanksgiving. So you got married, you've given thanks, and now comes reality. Now comes vitamin M deficiency. Okay? But then looking back, if I look at my own life, I don't think I had trouble only post the wedding. Okay? I think financial troubles or trouble with managing money came from much earlier. When I was a student at my engineering college, I had trouble then. When I was a student, when I later was working and I was a bachelor in Surat, I had troubles then. When I was again studying in Bangalore, I had trouble with my money. So I don't think it's only about a vitamin M deficiency post the wedding, but I think it's generally something that we all struggle with in kind of dealing or managing our money. And so it makes a lot of sense for you young people to kind of look at what we did wrong and then see how we can better things up. What I speak today will touch a lot about what Karen and I made mistakes in our 3 years of marriage. But then the learnings are for sure for anybody. It could be somebody old, could be somebody much younger, somebody in college, somebody in school, just having a pocket money as well. Now let's see, is there anyone here who's below the poverty line? Yeah, except for William? Yeah. William makes people go under the poverty line. He's a CA. Yeah, so he makes people go under the poverty line. But otherwise, I don't think there's anybody here who's under the poverty line, right? That's a base setting I'm going to start with. All of us, I think, thankfully, BBC is a blessed church. We have blessed people here, and we have some money. It may not be a lot of money. It may be different for each one, but then all of us are here wearing decent clothes. We've had a bath and come in today, so we have some money, okay, some decent amount of money. So I'm going to talk to you about looking at the glass half full. Our glass may not be full, okay, but we have some amount of water in the glass, some amount of money in our bags. Okay, it may be 3/4 the glass, it may be 1/4 the glass, or it may be just half the glass, but all of us have some water in the glass. Unfortunately, this glass never gets full. We all want this glass to be full, and if it ever even does get full, the problem is the glass changes to a much bigger glass. So we're always in need. We're always looking for more money because we never think our money is enough for us. How many of you have seen The Life of Pi, the movie? Life of Pi? Okay, so you see that young guy, he's gone cast away into the sea. He's all left with that boat, with the tiger, and with some supplies. I mean, he wished he had more supplies with him. He wished he had more cans of food with him, but that's all he had, right? And he managed in whatever he had. I think that's how all of us are as well. We're all cast away into this world with some amount of money, with some amount of resources. And it's all about how well or how badly we're managing what little that we have with us. So that's the first starting point where I want to begin with. It says deficiency is half full, not empty. So we are all at some level. We all have some money with us. We are deficient from the way we look at it. But then we like to look at it as a glass which is half full. There's some amount of money that we can all deal better with. The glass is not empty. How many of you are Gen Ys here? Gen Ys, any of you know what the definition is for Gen Ys? Okay, Gen Ys is anyone born between the 1980s and the 2000s. 1980s and 2000s. How many of you Gen Y? Yeah? I think at least 3/4 this church right now is Gen Ys. And we're all born into the generation where we saw India become liberalized. Okay? Remember the 90s when all that we had, I mean, how many of you remember drinking Citra? Or Gold Spot? Very few of us, right? A lot of you have been drinking Coke or Thumbs Up or maybe Pepsi. And that's what came in with liberalization. How many of you wore just Power shoes? Okay, we grew up on Power and Canvas shoes, but then now you have the Nikes, you have the Adidas, and you have various brands come in. So life's changed for us. I mean, when the Gen Ys were born, we born into a country which saw a little more plentiful, a little more of a lifestyle change. You know, I remember when my parents started off after the wedding, they began with a 1-bedroom house. They had a small mattress in their house, and they had 2 cane chairs. That's what they began with. But then when I was in my teens and my sister was born, we had a 2-bedroom house. We had a plush furniture in the place. We had a car. We had 3 dogs. So the house was full. And that's what most of the generation here has seen. And then it gets difficult for us because our parents see our glass as half full, but we see it as half empty. For us, we've begun on this platform of having a good lifestyle, having luxury, whereas our parents didn't begin with that. And so that's a big difference for the way they see our finances, the way we manage our finances, and the way we actually look at our own finances. Our parents see our glass half full, but we see them half empty. How many of you have ever heard of Maslow, Abraham Maslow? Yeah, psychology students. Okay, so Abraham Maslow is a great philosopher who wrote about this entire model called the Maslow's needs hierarchy, or Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you've remember that, seen that, okay, I'm going to show it to you anyway. This was written in 1943, and he talks about how man's needs are kind of put into a pyramid and how we're all trying to grow from our basic needs onto something called as self-actualization. So it begins with the first level of needs, which is the physical needs, or you also call the physiological needs, which is your basic stuff like your food, shelter, your warmth, and sleep. These are your basic needs. That's what he says. This is in 1943. Basic needs have changed since then. Yeah, got a little more than that. From physical needs, he moves on to safety needs, which is protection, security, order, and stability. He then moves on to social needs, which is belongingness, love, family, and relationships. And then moves on to something called as self-esteem or ego or esteem, which is achievement, status, reputation. Okay, something you want to flaunt about. And the next one is self-actualization. This is where now you have all the money in the world, you kind of become like the guru, you become like above everybody else, and I'm looking for personal growth, philanthropy, and I'm looking for fulfillment. So these are the 5 stages that he puts down as the needs of man. But if you look carefully, okay, you begin with physical needs, the safety needs, and then social needs. And that's when your needs stop. From there on come your self-esteem, it comes your self-actualization. You getting the drift? You're moving from your needs and onto something that gives you primacy, or something that gives you importance, something that builds your ego, something that builds your esteem. And this is what the world believes as well. This is a world system. This is what we're taught at college as well. And so we frame our entire lifestyle around such models which make you move from the needs to the wants, or from the needs to the greeds. We never get financially mowed down. We never get trampled by our needs. Look carefully into your own lives. You never get trampled by your own needs. It's always your greeds that kind of put you down, and your greeds that break your entire financial plan. And so if you can just take a minute and maybe see for yourself, and you'll find out that what is it that's troubling you? Is it your need, or is it your greed? Is it your need that's breaking your financial plan? Is it your need that is making money deficient for you from the way you look at it? Or is it your greeds that are making money seem difficult for you? Need or the greed? Now some of you may say, what's the big deal? Okay, what's the big deal about being a little cash strapped? I mean, okay, everybody goes through a time when it's difficult, where you have to manage your finances. Things are difficult, but that's how I learned, right? So what's a big deal about being deficient in money? It's a phase of life that I will go through. But then how many of you can say that you're free when you have money less in your pockets? How many of you can say that you're living tension-free? There's no worry in your head. I mean, think of it, at the end of the month when you have hardly a few hundred rupees left in your pocket, or when you have hardly a few tens left in your pocket. I remember in college, during the engineering times, when we come around the 21st or 22nd of the month, we'd hardly have about 10, 20 rupees left in the pocket, and we'd manage with that. We had no other option but to manage. But I mean, think for yourself, is it fun? I mean, living that way, is it really free mentally? Are you having peace in your mind living that way with knowing the fact that you don't have any money in your pocket? I mean, anybody can say that with no money in my pocket, with just a few hundred rupees left, I can be free. No, right? We're all tensed. We're all kind of pressurized. We all become slaves to the fact that we don't have money with us. That was how it was for Karen and me for a long time as well. When we had a huge credit card bill, we had a lot of stuff that we bought beyond what we could afford, and then it's painful. I mean, when you know that you have to pay at the end of the month so much money and you have nothing left for you to kind of enjoy with or save up, the entire mood in the house is not too cool. It's very, very sick. And that's what even 1 Corinthians 2:23 says. It says, you were bought at a price. Do not become slaves of human beings. You were bought at a price. Do not become slaves of human beings. When God made this world, He made us all perfect and He made us all free. And He said, Adam, this entire Garden of Eden is for you. You can go and pick any fruit you want, any tree you want, except for this one tree, the tree of good and evil. And He said, you can just do whatever you feel like. You're free to name the animals what you want to name them. You can call each plant what you want to call it. And you're there to just take care of it and enjoy what's been given to you. You don't have to labor, you don't have to toil, you don't have to be in pain. But then man got tricked in or got tempted by what Satan had to present to him. And then Satan said, you can be God by eating this fruit. So when he had everything that God gave him, the greed to be something more than what he had is what messed things up. And because Adam messed it up, all of us began messed up. All of us began losers. All of us began in this entire debt trap or death trap, if you had to call it as well. But then we have a great God. We have Jesus with us who's willingly come down to die for you and me, to take all the sin and the shame, to take all the slavery which money puts on us as well, and to just give us freedom in life. And after He's done all that, after He's died for you, after He's given all His blood for you, and we just saw that today as well, to take all your shame away. After He's done that, when we're again voluntarily getting back into slavery to human beings, to credit cards, to money, what's the point? Aren't we all just making that a pointless thing about what Christ did? So that's a question for you to just think about and say, are you sure you want to be a slave? I mean, yes, all of us have a difficult time, but then why do you want to be a slave? Because God has given you the freedom to be free from all of this pain, all of this shame, and all of this slavery that the world binds you with, money binds you with. So don't be a slave. Don't be a slave. But then most of us are stuck somewhere. Most of us have some issue we're dealing with financially. So how do we get out of it? How do we get out of what we've been troubled with? I'm going to give you a few tips, a few things that we learned as a couple during our married days in the first few years on how we could get ourselves out of that entire credit card trap, or how we could get ourselves out of an entire debt trap. The first thing that we did, and we did gladly, is to seek help. Now, most of us think we're smart, we're intelligent. Karen and me thought we were that as well. We thought we were smart, we were intelligent, and we could deal with our own issues. We didn't have to go and ask somebody for help. I mean, we're engineers, we got an MBA, we've learned about finances, but still we were in that trap of debt. And thankfully, some sense dawned upon us, and we went and asked people for some help. And there were more mature people in the church, more mature couples in the church we could go to, we could speak to about our financial situation. And we got some real helpful tips. And so I would urge you, I mean, if you are having a tough time with your finances, I don't think there's any harm in going and speaking to somebody about it confidentially. Tell them, I'm struggling with this. Would you know how I could get out of it? What should I do at this point in time? How do I manage my tough last few days of the month? And I'm sure there are more than enough people here in this church to help you and to keep it secret and to keep it confidential. By the time I had met this couple and I had spoken to them, I had read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There's a lot of knowledge available in the world. There's a lot of tips available on the net. But then it doesn't work. I mean, how many of you have read different books on finances? Read books on finances, read books on the net? But aren't you still struggling with this money issue? That's because we lack, I mean, there's a difference between reading something, there's a difference between applying that. And I think when you seek help, when you allow somebody to kind of talk to you and give you some help and walk you through that journey, there's a bigger impact in the way you can deal with your finances. So speak to somebody about it and share with them and help them monitor your finances for some time, for a couple of months until you get back on track. The second one is to budget. Now, budgeting is a super tip that we learned as a couple. If you don't have a plan, you're going down. That's for sure. If you don't have a plan, you're going down. So I put up a small template. This is how we kind of look at our expenses. So you can put any kind of expense in and just track what's happening over the month's time. And in 1 Timothy 5:8 it says, anyone who doesn't provide for their relatives and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. That's kind of a scary line to read from the Bible. Anyone who doesn't provide for the relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So I think it's better that we all kind of just shake up and look at what we're doing with our money. If we don't provide for a household, it's worse than an unbeliever. So that's something that scared us up as well. And so we put something like this down as our budget. Okay, a budget is some simple tool that will help you plan where your money is going. This is a simple tool that we use. So we put down our income, we put down what our tithe should be, what our rent is, what our utilities and maid cost is like, what would it be over the month to run your expenses, what kind of savings do you have any loans that you're paying up on, is there a credit card balance that you need to pay up on, and then what's left at the end of the month. And the way we use it is anytime we pay something up, there's a green flag which goes up there, so it's clean. There's nothing to be worried about for the month to come. So you can use your own style, you can use your own way of budgeting. There are a lot of people who are financial experts here. I'm sure you can take the help, even making a better template than this to kind of track your monthly expenses. And look for the details, because the devil lies in the details. The small things like your food. You know, if you look at the previous slide, I've written things like Maggie, or even just buying shawarma, stuff like that which you kind of think it's okay, it's less than $100, what's the big deal, why to note it down? But those are the kind of stuff which actually eat into your budget. And that's what we realized as well. So kind of note things down like gifts for friends or gifts for family when you're going back home, travel, all the stuff which you take it for granted, make sure you put them down, because those are the small stuff which eat into your budget. The third one is first things first. When you're putting down your budget, make sure you put the first things down first. And the first thing that you should do is to give God the first and the best of what you have. Proverbs 3:9 says, honor the Lord from your wealth and from the first of all your produce. And 2 Corinthians 9:7 says, each one must do just as he has purposed in his heart, not grudgingly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. The Bible says a good practice is to give 1/10 of your income to the Lord. But I would urge you that if you think that you're blessed, and if God has given you more than you ever thought you would have, go on beyond 10th. Go on and give the Lord what you think you want to give from a cheerful, from a loving heart. Don't do it grudgingly. Don't do it because you have to, but do it because you love doing it, because whatever you have is from God. I mean, if not for Him, what you had in your hands right now was nothing. So the first thing first, make sure you give your tithes and give it joyfully, give it cheerfully, give the best that you have to the Lord. Additionally, we learn as a church in Deuteronomy 14:28-29 that at the end of every third year, you shall bring out the tithe of your produce in that year and shall deposit it in your town. The Levite, because he has no portion or inheritance among you, and the alien, the orphan, and the widow who are in your town shall come and eat and be satisfied, in order that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work your hand which you do. So, basis this portion of the Bible, we believe as a church that we need to kind of keep some money out for any social causes, that to help somebody who's poor, to help the widow, to help the orphan, or to help any ministry of the church as well. So, if you want to kind of get on with us, 1/10 in 3 years works out about 3.33% a month. So, if you want to give more than above your tithe, that's a good way to look at it. It's a godly principle, and we could help you as well if you want to know more about this principle. So 3.33% every month, over and above your 10% or whatever you're giving to the Lord, for some need that might come up over the year. The fourth point is standard of living versus the standard of giving. Now this is one key principle that we learned from that couple when we were talking to them about how our finances were going. And one thing we learned about their financial strength, or the mantra of this financial success, was the fact that every time their income went up, their standard of living was the same, but the standard of giving went up. And when we started applying this to ourselves, and over the last couple of years, when we started improving our standard of giving, there's a joy in your heart which nothing else can match. We made sure that our lifestyle is pretty much the same. We've made some add-ons to our lifestyle, but then our standard of giving has for sure gone up in proportion to our standard of living. And we're true witnesses to the fact that it's such a joyful thing to give out of what you have. We were cash strapped for a long time. we really didn't have anything to kind of give out extra. And but in spite of that, we were urged, and we felt really blessed to kind of share from what we had. We were supporting the missions. We were supporting stuff at church, like the lunch at church. We were opening up our home to many people to come in and have a meal with us or stay with us. Things were getting difficult, but then all that we prayed for, God provided us for free of cost. I mean, we couldn't afford a smartphone, but then the office gave us a smartphone. We couldn't afford a good holiday, or the office took us for a good holiday. Even recently, we were just thinking how we wish we had a better toaster at home, a better griller at home. And on Friday, the office gave us a griller. So, I mean, it's just kind of gives you, just bongles you, because you just pray about what you don't have, and God just surprises you. And we're true witnesses to the fact about what God has blessed us with. It was the smartphone, it could be the griller, or it could just be simple, small things like a holiday as well. And in the most unexpected, unseeming ways, God is going to open things up for you, and He's going to bless you in areas that you've been asking for. All you need to do is just give Him cheerfully and be a part of the ministry that He's called you to be. Luke 6:38 says, "Give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you see, it will be measured to you." God is no man's debtor. He's always going to give you more than whatever you've given Him. I mean, just imagine, what is your tithe? Or what is your extra 3.33% when compared to what God has given you, or what God has in His store? Would it make any difference to God with your little money? But God is looking at your heart and what you can give Him out of what little that you have. The next one is avoid debt. This is a big thing for us. When we were younger people, and again the post-liberalization era, getting a credit card was a big deal. And so if you had a credit card, we would flaunt it. I mean, when you open your wallet, you had to see 3-4 cards lined up, and then you were a cool guy. And that's what we grew up seeing as well. So for us, when we started working, the first thing we wanted to have was a credit card. Little did we know that credit cards are silent killers. And that's what actually kind of killed our entire finances down. It was a mess. Everybody wants to be aspirational. Everybody wants to have a credit card. But folks, let me tell you, out of our own experience, credit cards are silent killers. They're going to break your entire budget down. Debt for buying a car, debt for buying a home, out of your planned money, out of your planned EMIs is okay. But then buying something out of which you can't afford for is not a good idea. There are various ads that you see saying, this, for some things there's money, but for many other things you got MasterCard, or you say Visa gives you priceless stuff. All that is crap, okay? In the end, you have to pay for it from your own money. So it's better to just avoid what these credit cards flaunt and try to market to you saying it's something good you have. Credit cards are real pitfalls. Some of us say that I have a credit card because it's in times of emergency, it's something good you want to have. Fair enough, you want to keep a credit card for emergency time, just keep it. Don't keep it in your wallet, because if you have it in your wallet, you're going to spend it somewhere. You're going to use it somewhere. You want to keep it in the locker, or keep it at a place when you might use it in the time of emergency. But then don't have it in your wallet and roam around, because you're going to use it. I get calls for credit cards. There's calls for a Coral card from ICICI. And I say I already have the card. Then they say, do you want a signature card? I say I have it. Then you want a platinum card. So there's endless marketing that's done for credit cards. People just want you to spend. That's how the economy works. That's how they're making money. How many of you know what's the interest rate on a credit card? First of all, how many of you have a credit card here? Okay, so how many of you know what's the interest rate on your credit card? Any guesses? How much? Sorry? 12%, 12 to 14%? 18%? 14%? Okay. See, that's a problem. None of us know what the interest rate on our credit card is. I'm telling you, it's a challenge. Go back home, look up on the net, and try finding out what the interest rate on the credit card is. You will not be able to find it out. It's that complex. On an average, the interest rate is about 30 to 35%. Okay, 14 to 15% is your personal loan interest. Your home loan is about 10 to 11%, but your credit card interest rate is above 30%. And credit cards don't tell you that when you're taking a credit card. You'll be shocked to know what your credit card interest percentage is. So please, folks, learn from us. Credit cards are not something you should have. It's a big mistake. But then why do we all use credit cards? We all use credit cards when you go down. I mean, where do you most use credit cards? You walk into a mall aimlessly, you don't know what to do, it's a lazy afternoon, and you see a beautiful basketball. Okay, I want to buy the basketball. That's what happened with Karen and me as well. We bought a beautiful Spalding basketball, we've hardly used it once. And we bought it on a credit card. One thing key when you're budgeting, or one thing key when you're going out shopping, is to always have a plan in place. You don't have a plan, you're going down. Go with a plan saying, this is what I want to buy. If you don't have anything to buy, don't go there. Better off watching a movie at home than going to a mall aimlessly. You're going to end up not just window shopping, but actually shopping as well. So just avoid credit cards if you can. The next one, which leads me to, is the only antidote to vitamin M deficiency is contentment. I mean, if you are always going to feel you don't have enough money, you're always going to feel sad, you're going to be enslaved by it. But the easiest way to get out of it is to know that God has given you what you need. You have enough money for your needs. It's all about the way you're managing it or not managing it. Contentment is clearly the antidote to your financial problem. Lack of contentment causes vitamin M deficiency. Surplus of contentment gives you financial health. Paul wrote to Timothy in 1 Timothy 6, verses 6 to 10. I'll read. But godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. And it's so true. Whatever we spoke about as desires and pitfalls and snares is all mentioned in the Bible itself. Vitamin M deficiency and the issue with money is not something that only we deal with. It's an old age problem. Every generation had to face that. So don't get perturbed saying, is it only me? From the time of Timothy, Paul had to write this to Timothy and say, folks, be content. Because God has given you what you need to have. And that's something that we need to remember as well. Just be contented with what you have. Work your finances around what you have. Work your needs around what you have, and you'll be happy. The key thing to remember when you're looking at finances, when you're looking at our life here, is that we are here on this earth on a temporal journey. This is not the real deal. This is not what you're made to be. Life on this earth is just a small dot on the huge eternal line of life that we have. We are all here for just a small period of time. This life is not the end. This life is not what we're looking to be the best at. We're looking forward to eternity. Where we spend eternity, endless time, is what makes a big difference to each of us. So more than financial security, what we need to worry about is eternal security. You could be the best at handling finances here, but what's the point if you're going to end here? What's the point if this is all that you have? What's the point if you're going to spend eternity in hell? Before you can think about financial security, I would urge you to look at where your eternity is going to be spent, where the rest of your life is going to be spent. Do you want to spend it in gold and honey and milk and honey in heaven, or do you want to spend it in the flames of fire down below? I'm going to leave you with this thought.